This ties into the kill shot particularly. And he said this many times about the kill shot event, the details of it, and that he doesn't think humanity stands much of a chance in terms of surviving this event. Others are pointing to all the millionaires, billionaires building bunkers. Zuckerberg and Bezos, they're all building these bunkers for what they call the event, as if they know there's something coming. It's just dubbed the event. And there's all kinds of speculation as to what that could be. Nuclear holocaust, an impact of some sort, or a kill shot, where the atmosphere starts to fall apart and people on the ground get hit with radiation like we've never seen in this day and time. Now, remote viewing is pretty interesting. They tried to deny that it's ongoing and they did it back in the day, but Ed Dames said that he continued doing things after 1995, and that the biggest thing that he saw when going and looking for nukes was this kill shot. It was a massive event coming from the sun, and he says it should come from the top of this current peak. He also said that in the visions, in the remote viewing visions, he could see a comet that he was it was a massive event coming from the sun, and he says it should come from the top of this current peak. He also said that in the visions, in the remote viewing visions, he could see a comet that he was referring to as Atlas that would be in the sky around the time of this cycle. And Atlas popped up in this cycle. It's done moved out of the area, but we're just now at the top of the solar cycle with fresh sunspots that are coming around with a lot of activity. Whether it's X flares or it's a bunch back to back to back, those back to back to back CMEs can stack up and cause what's called a cannibal CME. And that kind of CME kind of puts a blanket down that all hits Earth at the same time, and it amplifies the effect. And at some point, someone's grid's going to get affected. We've been very lucky at this point to where not even some of the low-grade grids out there around the planet have been taken down large scale. With the right kill shot, as Dame says here, could come out of cycle 25 and could put the planet down. So any country susceptible to this, we know they have a plan here. I put it out on the backup channel where they're going to start rolling out all this new infrastructure for the new way, as they explain it, where the infrastructure for AI and the data centers and all that's going to be rolled out. And you can see a lot of the data centers are ordered to have their own power plants on site, which is unprecedented. Which means when the lights go out, they will still have power to their data center, to their hubs, while the rest of us sit in the dark. Anyhow, whether it's them pulling the plug, an EMP, or a kill shot, things aren't looking good for our grid. I'd have a plan, because it looks like they're going to serve up some kind of extended event here where people are down without communications and all that good stuff. So join me for the live streams where I talk about this in greater detail. Going live Monday, Wednesday.
Hey, Shalom, Makim, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises and glory and honor as due to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim Kakwadash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles, the great millstone that rule well. Peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect, news in the gospel broad, lifting up the standard of Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, wherever it may be. This is not a lesson through the spirit. It says, kill shot is coming for Earth, warned CIA remote viewer before recent death. Looked like a whistleblower that they finally knocked off because he was basically exposing what the plans of the elites were. But regardless of it, Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, which is the Heavenly Father and the Son, who you ignorantly call God in Jesus Christ, has the scopeo in this place, and judgment is to be brought forth. So with this whole kill shot, They speculated it could be like solar flares or a possible EMP strike or a comet or a radiation attack or whatever it may be, or some type of energy weapon, because we know that Esau had what you call direct energy weapons, which is abbreviated as DEWS or DEWS. We saw a spiff of that during the Maui fires, the Palisade fires, when people allegedly got these photos of these appeared to be space weapons that was shot from space on people's lands and homes, man, to, you know, scorch parts of the Palisades, man. See, people seem to forget that happened. That was just literally like a year and a half ago, back in 2024, 2023. You had the Maui fires, and we had a excruciating hot summer that year, man. You know, but nonetheless, these are plagues, okay? Because EMP strike. When you have an EMP strike, then pretty much communication as we know it cease to exist. Meaning your cell phones, your laptops, your video games, you know, your landline phones. You won't have no power if they decide to hit that kill switch. Because you have to understand that we are in the years of the poly crisis, which poly goes into multiple. Okay, so multiple crises will take place in order for Esau to bring in his new world order. Because the scriptures say, in the fullness of his sufficiency, the Lord shall have rain upon him while he is eating, and also he should be in straits. So this devil is getting real sloppy, you know. But overall, if they do hit us with EMP strike, or they ignite some type of atmospheric weapon to disrupt life as we know it, then, you know, things are gonna pretty much get out of hand very quickly. Just lost my train of thought. But another thing too I was thinking about, not with the DEWS or the DEWS or the direct energy weapons, but solar flares. Oh yeah, with the chemtrailing, you know, there's been like it's yesterday it felt pretty good. Today it's not bad, but it's pretty humid, but it's hot, you know. My thermometer says 95 degrees, which I don't think is really accurate. I believe it's probably more like 80, but heat index wise it's probably like 85, almost 90. But we have wind with a little bit of humidity, so it's not too bad, but it is humid, but it's not cold, you know. It's pretty warm for this time of year, which is average. But nonetheless, with the chemicals they're spraying in the air, I'm noticing whatever they're spraying in the air is causing more atmospheric, what you consider atmospheric, so it's a term I'm looking for, but it's manipulating the atmosphere because it's causing the sun to illuminate hotter. And I've been noticing that like the last few years that it's been exceptionally hot. Like prime example, like you got what they call the ozone layer or the atmosphere, the firmament, which pretty much is a barrier that protects us from what they would consider outer space or the second heaven, because the third heaven being the spirit world. But nonetheless, that barrier seems like it's almost like if you put a magnifying glass on a meltable substance and it intensifies, so the sun feels a lot hotter because of whatever they're spraying in the atmosphere is causing it to be more hot, and it's making it more aggravated, man. So, you know, Esau is definitely doing something, but, you know, not to give him credit, it's really the Heavenly Father, because this is a wicked system. This is a wicked society. So it says a retired U.S. Army major and former CIA-linked remote viewer issued stark final warnings of a devastating solar kill shot before his death in March, claiming the current period of heightened solar activity can trigger infrastructure collapse on a global scale. So that sounds like a global blackout, because let's just say you wake up one day and there's no power. And it's so weird though, because maybe last month the Lord gave me a dream or a vision, whatever you want to call it, and I went outside and I was like, what the fuck going on? The Spirit told me, the Spirit was like, look, there's no power. The whole world went dark. But the Lord was like, you got power, because he was like, there's a phone or like a walkie-talkie or something under the mat. And the Spirit pointed me towards like under the bed, and it was something that had communications in it, so I was able to communicate. But nonetheless, I came outside and it seemed like we was back in the fucking 1800s, man. You know, and just imagine how devastating that's going to be for a bunch of people that's glued to their cell phones 24/7. Hell, it's even going to be a major adjustment for us, because guess what? We utilize phones through our jobs, communicate with family, work, doing the videos, like constantly watching videos. You're required to be on a smartphone or a computer, or you're watching it from the TV. So we've been bombarded with all this technology going on the last 20 some plus years. So we've become mentally acclimated and used to it. So even for us, it's going to be an adjustment, but the spirit is going to be with us, because we're not going to crash out when we can't get on X or Snapchat or Facebook. We ain't going to crash out. But these people, they're going to totally bug the fuck out. Why? Because this is their livelihood. This is what they're used to. Go, man. You got the fucking light. Go. Fucking dumbass, man. But anyway, it says retired Major Ed Dames, who participated in the U.S. government classified remote viewing programs during the Cold War, described the event as enormous solar blasts would knock out power grids. And I said that he was a whistleblower, but I guess he wasn't a whistleblower. But that doesn't mean that they didn't kill him. All right, because Esau is good for knocking people off that exposes this information, because he has an agenda to fulfill, you know? But it says can knock out power grid. So once the power grid goes down, that's it. That's just into your cell phone. Certain vehicles is not going to work. And just like Dabu was saying, they have these data centers that's going up that generates a lot of power and energy and water to sustain and operate. But they may be somewhat EMP proof, because, you know, they're going to have generators in it. Just like the planes and stuff they got now. Like if we was to get hit with an EMP strike, modern day planes will be able to survive it, because I believe they're equipped. Though some of them might fail. But in some cases, you may just having planes falling out the sky. And I think that's going to be deliberate as well, because they didn't equip all these planes with that information, with that technology. You know? Come on. Go ahead. Yeah, you're welcome. Didn't have to let your ass through. You know how you try to be nice to people and they just give you that defiant look? If I would have ran your dumb ass over, I would have been going off, you know? But fuck these people, bro. That's why they gotta die, man. These people are not considerate and very narcissistic, and the best thing for this place is destruction. And this is why we're not gonna feel bad for you people. And the Heavenly Father, you know, he shows us all the time why when you people get jacked up, we ain't gonna feel no type of way. All right, we ain't coming to none of your rescues, and we ain't helping you with damn thing, so don't ask. All right? But anyway, it says communications and essential services potentially leading to millions of immediate deaths and widespread societal breakdown. So when you have a breakdown of society, guess what? That means that all hell gonna break loose, meaning you're gonna have purge-like scenarios. Come on. Shit, Gadite. You're gonna have purge-like scenarios, man. All right? You're gonna have like a mass death, mass judgment, you know? And that's what's getting ready to be out here, because, you know, it's all part of prophecy. And it says Dames died at the age of 76, but in his last recorded interviews, he tied the timely directly to solar cycle 25 in a recent passive comet CO 2023. So, I mean, allegedly, that's supposed to be near. But, you know, we have to wait and see, because with these things, man, it's just a matter of when, not if. You know? Salaki, give me 1 second. I'm trying to park real quick so I can finish doing this lesson. So, anyway, CIA psychic spy issued kill shot apocalypse warning before death. It says Danes was linked to Project Stargate, a declassified U.S. intelligence program. A declassified U.S. intelligence initiative that ran for the 1970s until 1995. But it says it explored whether psychic phenomena, particularly remote viewing, that claim ability to perceive distant or hidden targets mentally, could be used for espionage. Espionage is another way of saying spying. You know? And they showed you that in that movie, The Shining. Not The Shining, but they showed you that in that show, Welcome to Derry, which is basically a spinoff of the It movie. It was basically It was a TV series. He had a dude by the name of Dick Hallorann, which is actually a character in The Shining that had the psychic abilities, and the United States military was using him to pretty much remote view of this entity Pennywise, so Esau can control the entity as a weapon, bro. So right there, man. So the CIA used people in the game Metal Gear Solid. You had a guy by the name of Psycho Mantis, which, you know, he worked for a group called Foxhound, which was basically the CIA. All right, because the CIA got sleeper cells within the CIA. But you had Spetsnaz, you had the CIA, you had the KG, you know, all those top governments. And Psycho Mantis was basically a spy or a psychic medium for Foxhound, man. So he was able to give him insight as to what was going on in world affairs and spying on America's secrets. That's why when you play the game, in order to beat him, you had to take the joystick and put it in the second slot so you can defeat him, so he won't be able to read your moves, because if not, he can read your every move. Which that was clever, by the way. But yeah, they got shit like that, man. Esau weaponizes everything. But it says the program originated amid Cold War concerns that Soviet Union was investigating similar psychic capabilities. It says Dame, who has served in airborne infantry and later as a tactical electronic warfare officer, transferring into the remote viewing unit after studying biophysics and Mandarin at UC Berkeley. It reads he maintained that remote viewers sometimes supplied intelligence unavailable through conventional means. But the Stargate project, which Stargate is back in effect now because you have what they call the Stargate program, which is basically a $500 billion program that's going to be ran, or the AI systems are going to be ran on this thing called Stargate. All right, which is going to fuel the systems for the data centers and the mark of the beast. So no coincidence it's coming back up. But it says Elise was shut down in 1995. Official reviews claim it had not delivered reliable operational viable. But one of his last interviews recently released, Dame stated, right now we're at the beginning of the solar cycle, 25 solar max. It says solar max should last for about 2 years and the sun's doing unprecedented stuff. It says there are more solar spots than there have ever been in the last 20-something years, which is plagues, man. It says he continued, I predict that the solar max will be the beginning of the kill shot sequence, but more and more intriguingly, the comet C-2023 A3 is in the sky. He says the timing of that appearance and the orbit exactly matches this passing space body with this huge event called the kill shot looming ahead, Dames further suggested. It says this comet we describe as a passing space body, we didn't know what it was, a planetoid or a comet, but either one that is concomitant with the initiation of the kill shot sequence. In this comet, the trajectory and the timing is a perfect match. So basically he has insight on it, right? So it reads, Dames warned of a practical consequence of such an event. You wake up and there's no power, basically an EMP strike. And there's no water, there's no gasoline. Ooh, that's going to be bad. It's going to be a bad nightmare scenario. And that's going to happen, even if it's through this method or it just Esau donated EMP or totally disrupting the grid. Regardless of it, we are going to see scenarios like this, man. Look at the movie Leave the World Behind. But it says that's what you're going to be confronted with, and the government is not going to help you. So it's going to be every man for itself. People going to be running crazy. People going to be getting fucked up. People going to be panicking, you know. But it says he had previously written, the true devastation of today's kill shot will be unlike anything we've previously seen in history, with solar radiation actually hitting ground level, resulting in the initial deaths of millions, with implication results of economic collapse and war. And remember, in that movie Elysium, when the earth got so polluted through radiation, the people had to go and live in an outer atmosphere, which the elites called Elysium. It says more than 30 years ago, we were looking for a nuclear war and finding out that our star was going on a rampage. But Danes first encountered the kill shot concept, and he said while remote viewing during his time in the classified programs. It says he later built a career teaching survival techniques and selling materials focused on preparing for a predicted event. But if the Heavenly Father's not with you, then hey, it ain't nothing you can do about it, man. All right, because going back, these elites are building bunkers. They're building all types of shit. Why? Because they know. All right, they know what's up. All right. Let's get a precept real quick. It's the book of 2nd Ezra 16. And I'm gonna start at verses 1. It says, "Woe be unto thee, Babylon in Asia, and woe be unto thee, Egypt and Syria." It says, "Gird yourselves." It says, "Gird up yourselves with cloths of sack and hair, and bewail your children, and be sorry, for your destruction is at hand." So this is a worldwide phenomenon, because remember, it told us that sorrow should come upon it on all sides, man. So this is gonna be a worldwide phenomenon. Not saying that it's gonna go down the exact way he mentioned with some type of comment, but we do know Esau has weapons, and we do know that the Heavenly Father can cause natural events to knock out the power grid, which the scriptures goes into 3 days of darkness. It says here, "A sword is sent upon you, who may turn it back." It says, "A fire set among you, and who may quench it." It says, "Plagues are sent unto you, and what is he that may drive them away?" Okay, so, hey, these are plagues. And peep this. The elites, they're building bunkers, man. Like that whole ballroom, grand ballroom that Trump is building. I believe it's like the West Wing of the White House or something like that. I believe it's like the West Wing. If I'm not mistaken, East or West Wing that they tore down, but they're building it up, which they were talking about is pretty much a bunker. Because you better believe that you got hundreds of foot of tunnels under Washington, D.C. and throughout America. But see, the elites, they're not in America, man. But nonetheless, you got people that have bunkers right here in Babylon for this type of scenario, for a purge-like scenario, man. You know? It says here, it says Dame's first encountered. It says Dame's warnings have drawn renewed scrutiny in light of separating reporting from extensive doomsday preparation by the ultra wealthy, but billionaires are transforming locations to exclusive enclaves and constructing fortified bunkers in anticipation of what they term the event. Yep, and I remember a video came out last month that one of the brothers did, and basically I would think it was this dude. He was talking to this Uber driver. There was this rich couple, this businessman, and he was talking to this Uber driver, and they was basically telling him, like, look, just protect, get you and your family prepared, get your houses in order, and protect your family, because the big one is coming. So this could be it, but something big is coming. It says local historian Paul George told Outlet only the very wealthy, the billionaires, can afford to live in Indian Creek. But it says hundreds of millions aren't going to cut it anymore. But these ultra wealthy elites are purchasing private islands in Hawaii, Fiji, New Zealand, because they're going to be out of America, when building underground shelters. It says, example, including Mark Zuckerberg's reported 5,000 square foot doomsday bunker at his Kulau Ranch property in Hawaii. Wow. It says some observers have noted that the thematic overlap between Dame's long-standing kill shot scenario and the vague but urgent event referenced in these elites' preparedness efforts, though no direct connection has been publicly confirmed by the individuals involved. But NASA and NOAA continue to monitor Solar Cycle 25, which has produced significant flares in geomagnetic storms. But several solar activity is known to threaten satellites, power grids, and communications. So the elites, they're getting prepared, but it ain't gonna do them no good, because, I mean, Yahweh Shem Yahushua can get you from anywhere. But anyway, it says, may any man drive away a hungry lion from the wood, or may anyone quench the fire in the stubble when it begin to burn. It reads, may one turn again the arrows that is shot of a strong archer? And question is no. But the mighty Lord sendeth the plagues, and who is he that can drive them away? It says a fire should go forth from his wrath, and who is he that may quench it? Yeah, it says a fire, man. Okay, because the Lord is getting ready to send fire on the earth. Jump down to verses 14, even though the fire is going into the missiles, but nonetheless, these solar flares, these events, these EMP strikes is all dealing with plagues. It says, behold, the plagues are sent and should not return again until they come upon the earth. But the fire is kindled and should not be put out till to consume the foundation of the earth. Like as an arrow that is shot of a mighty archer, returning not backwards, even so the plagues that should be sent upon the earth should not return again. So, yeah, man, we're coming into nightmare scenarios, man, because the people around you, hey, they ain't gonna know what to do. They're gonna lose it. They're gonna panic. They're gonna go at each other's head when they announce certain shit on the news, which is usually too late. Like in that movie 2012. Hey, man, these people ain't gonna know what to do, and they're gonna bug out. They're gonna start killing one another, and there ain't gonna be any cops or anybody that's due to come to the aid. So it's gonna get real sticky real soon, as I like to say. Okay, Revelation 16, and I'm gonna start at verses 8, and it says here, Matter of fact, let's start at verses 8. It says, and the fourth angel poured out his vial upon the sun, and power was given it to him to scorch men with fire. Yep. Them solar flares, those missiles, this heat, all that shit. It says here, and men were scorched with great heat, and blaspheme the name of Yahweh, which have power over these plagues, and they repented not to give him glory. And the fifth angel poured out his vial upon the seat of the beast, and his kingdom was full of darkness, and they gnawed their tongues for pain. And that darkness is talking about destruction, death, famine, pestilence, all this shit, man. And also darkness, actual grid outages, man. Scriptures goes into it, you know. Going down verses 17, it says, woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? The beginning of sorrows and great mournings, and the beginning of famine and great death, and the beginning of wars, and the power shall stand in fear, and the beginning of evils. But what should I do when these evils come? Yeah, and the question is, to answer that, is call on Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, because that's all we're going to have in that day. It says, behold, famine and plague and tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for a minute, but for all these they should not turn from their wickedness, nor always be mindful of their scourges. And when you have a scenario like this, it creates pestilence, it creates famines, it creates earthquakes, etc. You know? And it says, behold, victuals should be so good, cheap upon earth, that they should think themselves to be in good case, but even then shall evils grow upon the earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. It says, for many of them that dwell on the earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy, and the dead should be cast out as dung, and there should be no man left to comfort them. For the earth should be wasted, and the city should be casted down, man. All right? So, yeah, man. The nightmare scenarios are upon us, and hey, may Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai be with us, man. Shalom.